So, now we are going to do a quick chat about the branch activity of the last year that Michael was going to give the talk, so I probably won't be quite as entertaining as Michael usually is, but hopefully it will still be informative. It's just going to be a sort of summary of a few things. It's not everything. So the first thing I wanted to just touch on was transects. So we've got 60 active transects that were walked in this year. You can see, I mean, it's not that clear, but the yellow ones are transects that we need new walkers for. So, the green ones are the ones that we need new walkers for. The yellow ones are the ones we need, and the green ones are new transects for last year. So it's really brilliant. Julia, who can wave, she is our transect coordinator. So if anybody is interested in finding out more about transects, please talk to her. But she gave me a few slides just to show a little glimpse of what we've had. Obviously, this is hot off the press because the transect walkers had till this week, wasn't it, to submit their records. They've got till the 31st, so it might not be complete. But these are the three that need new walkers, so Beacon Hill, Castle Hill and Lullington Heath. So if anybody is interested or know people that might want to do these transects, then please let us know. I will just check my notes. That the transect walking is obviously a bit of a commitment in terms of you have to walk them every week for 26 weeks from April the 1st to September 30th. But it's really rewarding and you get to know a site really well and see what's happening to those butterflies right through the year. And most of the transects take about an hour to complete, I believe. So the transects this year, I think our volunteers gave about 1,500 hours to us as volunteers. So we're always incredibly grateful to them. This is...
Can I just...
Yeah?
Castle Hill.
I will go back.
Lullington Heath, they're both national nature reserves, and so you're going to get really good butterflies there if you do those. Both
National nature reserves.
And Lullington Heath, I'm hoping to find a grading there soon at some point.
Well,
so it'd be good to have a transect there.
It would be great to have a transect at Lullington Heath. Yeah, it is a national nature reserve. Hot off the press, this is the species counts for Sussex this year. You can see in green the ones that perform well, in orangey brown the ones that perform less well. Obviously this, as I said, this is just a snapshot because not the full data's in, but it just gives you an idea of what information goes to the National Recording Scheme and what amazing things they can get out of it and things that they can learn, basically. Also, Ian from the national team did a couple of graphs for us showing Sussex versus national trends just for these two species. So you can see that holly blue seemed to have a very good year nationally, and it did have a good year in Sussex, but not as good compared to the national. We don't know why, and maybe it's just this is compared to last year, so don't know. And similarly, the small tortoiseshell as well. You can see that the small tortoiseshell had a less good year, but it's just quite interesting to be able to compare Sussex to national trends, which more of that will come out through the national recording schemes. They put out newsletters and things. So again, if people are interested in that information, you can provide that. So most of our transects are set area transects, and you record all the species that you see on your transect. But we do also have single species transects in Sussex. So this one is showing, it's not very clear, but the where are we? Up the silver-studded blue here. So we have a single species transect for the silver-studded blue, which was actually quite good this year. We had as it says here, we had a peak of 127 in 1 week in July. And the reason we have a single species transect for this is because of work that's been going on in the Ashdown Forest for this species. So silver-studded blue is a species that's associated with heathland, and they are a bit more successful in West Sussex on the green sand heaths over there. But in the Ashdown Forest, they used to be widespread until the mid sort of 20th century, but its abundance has decreased a lot, mostly to do with management issues on the site. And so we have a transect walker who is recording just silver-studded blues there, just in their flight time, and then sending all of that information to Paul. I have to say thanks to Paul for this, for these slides. And I think it was, I've got it here, it was starting 2016 that we started to really look at the distribution on the Ashdown Forest. And then it's a volunteer called Tom Lee. He walks it every year. It's about 5 kilometres, so it's longer than a normal transect, but it's for a shorter amount of time. And basically, the silver-studded blue is only in one area of the Ashdown Forest, which is in the kind of southeast area, which you can kind of see there. And this is the police training centre, and it's basically in the fire breaks around that area is where they seem to be hanging on. So the branch funded last year with some other people some work in that area to enhance the habitat. So this is Steve Wheatley, if you don't know him, who was the regional manager, and he sort of led on the work to create scrapes in the Ashdown Forest to clear lots of the bracken, which isn't that helpful for the silver-studded blues, and to start, so you get some bare ground, and also to start regenerating the heather so that you can get different heather structures and ages, which is really helpful for them. So we've done, I think it was 20 scrapes on the Ashdown Forest that we helped fund, and I know that Steve was obviously involved, and now Paul Tinsley Marshall, his replacement, has had a meeting with our Paul, and there's a new manager at the Ashdown Forest called Ash, I think, ironically, and they've met, and they're going to hopefully continue this work. So the idea is that these scrapes, I think I put a picture in, bringing, I didn't have a picture of what it looks like after the scrape, but I'm hoping that it's going to be lots of heather growing up. So that was a really positive thing that we contributed some money to, and some volunteers. And we're hoping that will help the silver-studded blue expand in that area, because the Ashdown Forest is quite isolated in terms of heathland, so it's very unlikely that the butterfly will be able to move to other areas, so we've got to really bolster that population to keep it going. So hopefully that's on a positive trajectory. Another project that the branch has been contributing to is Wild About Warnham, which is David Bridges, who's a ex-BC employee, and he is just like a machine, basically. He lives in Warnham, and he a few years ago, he set up the Wild About Warnham project, where he basically got involved in these fields that a farmer owned, and he basically decided that they would probably be good for butterflies, and he went and spoke to the landowner, and has basically been helping manage them for butterflies, and then running events there. He has work parties there. We hold the money for him, and we contribute some money, but really he's so good at getting other people to pay for things. It's actually very cost effective, and he's had a really good year. So the fields are still being managed really well. He did a guided walk for butterfly for Sussex BC members, and that's where that purple emperor apparently landed on someone's finger for about 20 minutes, and everyone could take a picture, and it was a really nice day. He's also been working with children from the Eco Council at the Warnham Primary School, and they created this wildflower mini meadow in their school grounds. And in 2023, they're going to be distributing, David's going to be distributing wildflower seed packets to all the 200 plus pupils, so they can have mini meadows in their gardens, because the whole point is he's trying to create a network throughout Warnham and then into the wider area. He's also found a church yard that he thought might be good, so he's created a sort of no-mow area in part of the churchyard, and now he's working with the contractors to get them to do cut and collect, because we know that if you're cutting grass, you need to take it away to help the wildflowers thrive rather than suppressing them with old thatch and material and nutrients. And so that's been really positive. And he's also created a pollinator highway, which is, you can see that on the left, which is we helped support as well, and it's a newly created cycle path that was getting created, and he basically got involved in what would happen to the verge, because often it just gets, topsoil seeded with ryegrass, and he managed to persuade the council not to do that, which is fantastic. So that's sort of the Warnham area that he's been working on. I think the reason he's not here today actually is because he's got a conservation work party in the fields today. So if anybody lives in that area and is interested, David's always happy to show people around and, tell you more about the project. And the other thing he's been doing is there's a landfill site called Brockhurst Wood, which has been capped basically, and they were going to plant trees on it, but he persuaded them that wouldn't be a good idea, and they should manage it as grassland, and they agreed, which is fantastic. And it was quite a complicated process, because being a landfill site, there's a lot of health and safety requirements, but he's persisted with it, and he's found that I think it's 80 acres, and it's really good. It's got lots of grizzled skipper, dingy skipper, lots of small heath, things like that. And he did a training day with BIFA staff from the whole area on butterfly identification and transects, so they can start recording what they're seeing, because obviously it's easier for them to record what's on the site than trying to get volunteers in, which it's more restrictions. I believe, Julia, you helped with it. Are you one of those people in high vis? So it's a fetching look. So yeah, that's really positive. He's done 2 of those, and he's had support from Phil Sterling from the National Charity. So overall, he's doing loads of stuff basically with minimal money from us, but it's obviously extremely efficient and goes a long way. And the final thing he wanted to say was that he wanted to show us these photos of this death's head hawk moth caterpillar. He called it Dennis, that he found. He found and rescued it from a Southwater garden, and then he reared it in a flower pot of peat-free compost and released it in Warnham in October. So I just thought it was an interesting thing he was doing. It's an amazing caterpillar, isn't it? I've never seen one. So yeah, that's what David's been doing. Wild about Warnham. The other project that's been going on, obviously, so it's not Fertillaries for the Future, but it's basically the legacy of that. So Fertillaries for the Future was Neil Hume's project quite a few years ago, expanding fertillaries in Sussex. And one of the focus areas for that was our nature reserve, Rowland Wood, Park Corner Heath, and the reintroductions of pearl-bordered fritillary and small pearl-bordered fritillary. So the butterflies were reintroduced in 2019, I believe, and then since then we've been had a transect walk there, and that's a transect that's actually shared between a number of people. So Colin, you do it, don't you? And a few other people. But obviously we record all the butterflies on our reserve, but also it's timed specifically to look for these 2 species as well. And I just thought it'd be good to give an update, because I think we hadn't really given an update on how they're faring, basically. So we've done loads of work in Rowland Wood for these butterflies, doing lots of rye clearance and making sure the violets are abundant, and there's still lots more to do, which hence the 12 work parties this winter, and it's a constant kind of battle with succession to kind of keep these open areas that the butterflies need. And basically, for the pearl bordered fritillary, if you can see down here, these are the years and the maximum counts and the date that they had the maximum count. So if you're interested in seeing a pearl bordered fritillary, I recommend going around the 13th, 12th, 15th of May. But you can see they're pretty good numbers. The slight drop in 2021 was most likely to be to do with a larger regional drop, which was basically because we had a really, really cold spring that year with lots of frost, which meant that there was hardly any violets for the post-hibernation caterpillars to feed on. So the fact that they bounced up again this year is really great, and we're hopeful that Neil considers it to be a successful reintroduction, and he thinks the sort of success of the species looks bright. And Neil has, in his own time, also been doing work in these other areas of Sussex where the pearl bordered fritillaries are, to maintain those populations and hopefully expand them. For the small pearl bordered fritillary, it's not looking quite as positive. So the max day count in 2020 was 41, which was fantastic. And this is a species that we've only got in that area. It was basically extinct from the county. Then it dropped really significantly in 2021, which again was the cold spring and the frost. We think it affected this species more than it did the pearl bordered fritillary. But the fact that we had, they hadn't completely gone this year, and a slightly increased count means it's not necessarily all lost. Neil said he photographed 13 different females during the flight season because he photographs them all and can identify individuals from their wing patterns and things. And he's, if anyone's met Neil, he's slightly obsessed. So, he's not completely depressed about this. He thinks the population hopefully will recover, but it still remains uncertain, which is why it's really important for us to maintain the habitat in perfect condition for them, because things like climate we can't control. So the things that we can control, we just have to try and make as best for them. So this is always, Rowland Wood and Park Corner Heath is always the sort of number one priority for the branch, making sure that has the support it needs, the management plan, the volunteers. And really, we couldn't do it at all without Neil. The only concern is that so much of the information is in his head, but he's a really sort of fantastic asset. So that's
quite a lot of it's in the Sussex Atlas.
Quite a lot of it is in the Sussex Atlas, but not the more recent stuff. So there has always been talk about a update to the Sussex Atlas, but I just don't know if Michael and Neil can face it. So maybe one day. I think we'd all like to see some update chapters. So that's brilliant. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the grey. Oh yeah, this is just a reminder about the work parties, just in case I haven't said that enough. We need volunteers. The next thing I want to talk about was the grayling, but I think, Tim, do you want to come and talk about it? Yeah. Considering it's basically Tim's project. Okay,
thanks, yeah.
Let me give you this.
Oh, okay.
You just hold it. I'll stand with you.
All right. Thanks. That's a grayling, which it's got its when it lands, it shows its forewing like that for like 2 seconds, and then it closes it, and then you can't see it. So I've been calling it the master of disguise in things that I've been writing about it. But so deep Dean grayling, you might that's not the name of the species, but it might as well be, because it's the only place where you get this butterfly. It's a chalk grassland site near Wilmington in East Sussex, and it's now the only place you get grayling on chalk in the in the whole country, I'm told, by someone from Natural England. Possibly there's another population on limestone, but normally, you know, the grayling butterfly is a lowland heath acid grassland species. So it used to be widespread on the chalk as well, but we consider it a different race of butterfly from the one that you find on the lowland heath and the acid grassland. And the population dwindled and dwindled and dwindled throughout the 20th century. At the beginning of the 21st century, it was still present at 3 sites. The other 2 were Lullington Heath and a little chalk pit in Willingdon, and they both lost those populations. And so the only place left was Deep Dean, Wilmington. So things were quite desperate because the high counts were in the low 20s, low or mid 20s, and so we decided to take some action. We kind of had that's me taking action. Do you know what? I think that is Deep Dean as well, that photograph. Yeah, just at the top of Deep Dean. And yeah, I was on the committee, and then Neil, and I'm a ranger for this area. I work for the South Downs National Park Authority, and that's in my patch. So the rangers all have patches. My patch includes this valley. So I was working with the farmer there, and one of the threats to the grayling was that the tall grass was growing on that southeast-facing slope, which is it's a really tough grass, and the sheep don't eat it. The farmer was only grazing it with sheep, and it was just getting bigger and bigger tussocks, and it was taking over a larger and larger area of that bank. So I said to the farmer, right, I'm going to pay for some ponies to go on here. So we got the Sussex Pony Grazing Conservation Trust to put some ponies in there, and they munched all the tall grass away, which is great. The ponies are brilliant. They just eat it. They eat anything that's rough and spiky. They don't mind. The sheep would go, won't touch it. But the ponies are in there, and they just levelled it. And obviously it grows back, so you have to keep doing that. The Pony Grazing Conservation Trust were trying to wind up their operations in the South Downs at that time. And so I said, I arranged this meeting with the farmer and the lady Anna, who's running the herd, and I said, look, they're trying to find homes for these ponies. And this farmer took on 12 of the ponies. He said, okay, I can have these. He's looking to the future. He's a really good farmer. He's got his eye on the future, and he knows where payments are going to be in the future, and it's going to be in conservation. You know, Michael Gove is saying public goods for public money, and so he's thinking, well, I'm not going to get paid basic payment anymore for farming. Let's look what other ways I can make money, what other subsidies I can get. So he's taken the ponies on, and he's now grown that herd from the 12, and I think he must have, well, he took another 12 on this summer. I think it must be around 50 or 60 ponies now, and they're grazing chalk grassland sites all around this area near Wilmington. He's based in Litlington, and so here they are. Look at that, amazing. They're brilliant. They love it up there. So they're eating the tall grass and grazing really tight. So there you go. There's Deep Dean. So you can see the contour there. Can I have the pointer? Thanks.
Is this the one? The red one?
That's deep. That's the valley. Yeah. And so the butterflies are all on this southeast-facing slope, which is really hot. The grayling like it hot. But what we've got here is Udine, this valley here, which is like parallel. Can you see? So you've got that U shape and that U shape, but this is a big unit that's grazed, and so there was a bit of chalk grassland still on this. You know, when you walk up to, a lot of you will be familiar, you walk up this bostel to get to Deep Dean, and you come in here, and then you see the grayling. As you walk up here, you've got this valley, this bank below you, and what we've done is there's a bit of chalk grassland here, so it's got the same aspect, southeast facing, but the grazing wasn't any good because it's in a big unit and you can't concentrate the grazing. So what we did was we put a fence there, about there, a unit, which means that we could then manage the grazing, and the farmer's already got the ponies, so he put the ponies in there last winter, and I grazed it right down, and it's starting to look good. What I want it to do, I want this side of this valley to look like this valley here. So we can do that with the ponies, which he's already got. And so that was partly funded by Butterfly Conservation, partly funded by the National Park Authority. Yeah, I think we asked for £7,000, but actually the fencing work came to slightly less than that because the contractor was really good, so we saved a bit of money there. But that's your money as members of Butterfly Conservation, directly helping, and as taxpayers, actually, because that's where the National Park get their money, paying for this fencing here to help save this species, because you can't have a species just on one site. It's not feasible in the long term. It's vulnerable to extinction at any time, you know. So we've got to get it on other sites again, and this is going to be the first step. They can hop over the hill, and they're often seen over here when people walk up. So if they establish here, then we've got two populations. That's a start, and then we can start to look at, you know, looking for a brighter future for this butterfly. The other thing is, I mentioned Lullington Heath earlier, National Nature Reserve. That's just here. If you imagine the map goes over there. So that used to have a population of grayling, and we're doing lots of work there because the whole thing got covered in gorse, 10-foot high gorse thickets. We've chopped all that down, and the same farmer is grazing that with the ponies again. There's a permanent herd basically living there now, and they love eating the gorse. They eat tall grass is like chocolate to them. The gorse is like, you push them on the winter, and they're like, they don't look very happy about it, but it can actually make up 60% of their diet. So we get Lullington Heath back into good condition, and then once they get there, it's a much bigger site, and hopefully they'll take off, and we'll have a viable population then that will spread out again. So we're saving a species, I think, from extinction here. You know, the grayling's not going to go extinct across the UK, but it is going to go extinct on chalk unless we're very careful. So. Oh yeah. So this is within the new fenced unit on Udine, and this was the last day they were in there, and they nibbled it. You could see the first bit. They nibbled it down to. Is there a second one? They've nibbled the grass down to really, really low, like a bowling green. Oh look, you see, the other thing I haven't mentioned yet, which, if you don't mind, let me rabble it. I could talk about grayling quite a long time. They need bare ground, and this pony is creating bare ground. Look, he's rolling around in that, which is exactly what the grayling need. Can you see how short the grass is there? But they've also, you know, they've knocked back that tall grass as well, about 50%. So we need to have them there again each winter for a little while. And what we found is that the grayling need these bare patches. There used to be quite a high rabbit population in Deep Dean, and they would always be, you know, scraping away and creating bare ground. But the rabbit population completely dropped due to myxomatosis and lagovirus, and these little scrapes were all vegetating over. So I went in there with the volunteers, and we just got spades and mattocks, and we just like make a little hole like this in the ground, and then you've got bare ground there, and the butterflies, they come down and thermoregulate there. Like I say, they like it really hot. These bits of bare ground get really hot, and they sit there, get really hot, and then they fly around and go, hey. But also, crucially, what we've seen is one of our volunteers has noticed this quite a lot. He's the guy who does the species transect for the grayling, Patrick Moore. Amazing guy. He just walks all the way up this hill around hours and hours all day, back and forth. It's a long walk into the site, if anyone who's been there knows, and counts these butterflies. And he's seen them using these scrapes, not just to thermoregulate, but also to lay their eggs on the rootlets of the grass at the edge of these scrapes. So it seems it's really important for the egg laying as well. The grass that the caterpillars eat is the sheep's fescue, very fine grass. It's like needle-like leaves. And they'll lay their eggs just on the edges of that scrape there where the roots are exposed. And, well, we've been doing that for a few years now, and like the high count went down to 19, which is, you know, scary low. The next year it came up to 48, I think. The year after, that was last year, we had that really cold spring. That wasn't very good for them. 2 weeks late. And we got another 49 or 50 high count. This year, Patrick texted me on Saturday the 26th of July, I think it was. 158. Boom, it's gone through the roof. And so I went up there on the Sunday. It was the middle of the heat wave, and I was like, I just did the loop around the top, and I saw 50 in less than an hour. And so, you know, it's brilliant. So we know we're doing the right thing, and it's going in the right direction. So thanks to all of you for helping with that.
That is actually the end of the talk, because those were the main projects I wanted to speak about. So I think all there is to say thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. And thanks again to Dan for speaking, and Tim as well for your ad hoc talk. It was brilliant. You definitely know way more about it than me, so it's perfect. And again, thanks to everyone who volunteers for us, helps with the committee, helps with the work parties, records butterflies, is a member. Basically, without all of those people, we wouldn't be able to do any of this work. So, yeah, thanks everyone, and hopefully some people will see you all again next year, and I'll be around. I'm not completely disappearing. So, thank you very much.